Protect your engine with Syntec Full Synthetic Motor Oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec is designed for today's engines to dissipate heat and reduce friction and wear. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select Oil Filter for just $33.99, plus 2 times O Rewards points. Choose Syntec, available exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When you stay at a Vrbo vacation home, the host doesn't stay with you. So when you share an inside joke, sunscreen, or couch, it will only be with people you want to be there. Because without privacy in your vacation home, it isn't really a vacation. Is it? Only whole vacation homes. Always private. Book on the Vrbo app.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer today, the always thoughtful Doug Warren. Appreciate him being available today to do this show. Doug, let's go out to our guest line and welcome in someone who I've had a lot of conversations with about sports and politics and people and human nature, and I almost always learn something. About Dr. John H. Braccio, Regional Psychological Services. It's drjohnb.com. John, I wish I was talking to you under other circumstances. I wish we were talking sports right now, but there will be a time for that again. I want to ask you the question, maybe the only question that's relevant right now, one that I have asked politicians, clergy, educators, people way smarter than I am, and I haven't gotten the right answer yet. Why? Why?
Well, Jack, it's really hard to get an answer, okay, because people disagree on the cause, okay? Mm-hmm. We're talking about, we can take some statistics, okay, that 98% of are male, mass shooters, okay? Mm-hmm. That we know that there's the data showing masculinity is an issue in terms of even the physical size or the way the person looks, the possible trauma when someone is growing up, okay? That they're being around firearms, using them, and also the idea of spending countless time on computers. The problem is a lot of people have these factors and they don't do this, okay? Yes. And that's where the problem comes in. It's really, if you get somebody who is, wants to be Adolf Hitler for a cheerful thought, okay, and is living that life, has guns and buys a tank and all. I mean, that's a simple thing to see. But a lot of these people, I was reading about this person, who did the killing here, okay, at Michigan State. The dad says that couldn't get over the death of his mother, wasn't working on the computer. Apparently a neighbor says he would shoot a gun in the backyard, to quiet the dogs. I didn't know that was a way to quiet dogs, but anyway. And just, he doesn't seem on the face of it like someone who's going to go shoot somebody. Now, you could say, well, anybody who's interested in guns, he's had problems with guns, he's done these things. Well, a lot of people do this, including, not to sound harsh, but a Michigan football player. I mean, this could happen, meaning you can't say, and I'm trying, that's not a sports thing, it's just an example. Right. You can, so it's hard to really know, because mental health isn't always the factor. A lot of these people, you could say anybody who's going to go shoot somebody has bad mental health. We're going to certainly agree with that. But some of these people are quite calculating. They plan it. And grandiosity, this type thing, I'm a nobody. So it's hard to get a why in a world like we're in, too, where we have 330 million people. There's always a battle between, civil rights, right now, let's say we went and found 200 people in Lansing and put them away for a while, whatever. The odds are maybe none of them or maybe every now and then one of them might do something. So it's a very difficult thing, Jack. I've thought about this for years. I mean, because this is nothing really new. And as I've looked into this, it's hard to. There are factors you can find, but not everybody, fits into. I think the example. I think the most remarkable one is probably the one down in Las Vegas. I mean, no one's been able to figure that one out. Right. And then we've got people driving people with cars. We've got a lot of things going on. So I think
had one of those last night.
Yeah, one. That's right.
In New York.
Yeah, that's right. Here's what I think, Jack. I think it's kind of one of these things. If everybody, and this gets into your brother keeper, if everybody is nice to people, tries to be helpful, sees people struggling. Now, someone might say, well, that might not have helped you. Well, we don't know how many mass shootings these can stop, okay?
Right.
Let's just assume that you're going to have some of these, as much as I hate to do that, okay? Let's just assume. I think what we have to be all working on is if we see people isolated, we see people that may have a fixation with a gun, we see things that we just aren't wholesome, we might try to intervene, whether it's a relative, whether it's a friend, whether it's a neighbor. That's what I think we can do, because I don't really think, except for the obvious, it's really not always easy to really determine who's going to do these things, because some of these people, once we dig into it, we can certainly find things, but you could go to all kinds of people's Facebooks. You could go to their interactions, and people say a lot of silly things in print. I'd like to shoot this guy. They don't really mean that. Okay, so I think that we can certainly come up with patterns. We can look for certain things, but it's really hard to identify the one that does it from the 100 that might have the same symptoms, because this fellow really, again, I don't know enough about it, from what I've read, he doesn't seem like the guy that would be out randomly going to MSU and shooting people. This doesn't really fit. So I hope I've not made you feel bad by saying another failure in my question. I mean, I don't. But
no. I was going to ask John if what you know about the people who have done these kinds of things. Have most of them had a traumatic event which has caused them to snap? Have they had a long-standing personality disorder which is built over the years, and then there's been a plan involved in this? Is there any kind of an MO here that we can look at?
Here's the thing I think you find. There is a grievance. There tends to be anger. There tends to be a frustration, even though I haven't seen it with this person other than apparently he's had trouble with his mother dying. But there generally is some anger. There's some frustration, whatever. We can look at the people, that have, and even randomly killed people. There was a couple in California. I mean, but when you dig in, there is something that bothers them and has them angry. But, Jack, a lot of people are angry. I work with a lot of people that are mad. Mad. I just was talking to someone really mad at the family. So it's hard to. I think there's a danger here. You can backtrack and find a set of common characteristics in these persons, but you also could find them in a much higher percent of normal people. It's like finding 50 things in common between back on Adolf Hitler and Abraham Lincoln. You could do that. But you understand what I mean. I mean, you're starting with their men and they're a certain age, whatever it might be. So I think there's certain things, unless we're talking about extremes, but, when I've looked at these people, whether it's the Lanza, the one out in New York, shooting people, the person, I'm trying to think of his name, was Venezuelan, the one down in Florida that just was shooting people. Even though he had problems and people had been to his house, that is true. Now, I'm just thinking randomly, not of things going on. But again, when you look back, you still don't see them taking a gun and cold-bloodedly killing people. And I think the person last night in Lansing, if you look for unless there's something we really find out, he doesn't really seem at all Randy, he's not even tied into Michigan State University.
No, and he's 43 years old. He's older than most
That's
of
right.
the.
That is right. And he doesn't have he's had a problem with a non-licensed gun. He was on probation, from what I'm reading. The dad, it seems like a wonderful guy. Just says he feels horrible.
Yeah.
Reaching out, had no idea about this. That he has not been the same since the mother died. I mean, how do you take these facts and turn him into a massacre, a mass killer? That's, I'm sure we'll get more information. But again, hard to find a reason. I think it all gets back to all of us. If we're all looking and we see people that are alone, people that are struggling, things that we, even if the odds are the 50 people we potentially could help over a lifetime, none of them would have done it anyway. It's the one that you might have some impact on that could make a difference, Jack. Because these things have troubled me for countless years, and I have not been able to find one or two things other than I work with a lot of people that are angry. They have issues with people, but they're but if you were to take these people that do it and back up, you might find they're very similar to some of these people, but these people are not going to go out. And anger is one of the things we do a lot of work with. But they're not out shooting people and massacring people. So it's it's a tough thing to deal with. And we always, I think we're glad there is mental health support. There has been, is to help with with the persons that are having issues, but it doesn't seem to catch a lot of these people that just kind of go unhinged and go and do these things. It's pretty horrible, Jack. And you're going to run into true believers that say, if you do this, or you do this, or you do this. And I think all those, each one of them might be helpful, but no one really has a ironclad way, unless you become so controlling of people, or try to be. But then again, you run the risk of putting all kinds of people away that may be cantankerous, argumentative, problematic. And that's a lot of people. And
some people would have wanted to put me away a few times, I can imagine. John, you are very, very, very good at what you do. You're renowned. All of the seminars you have done, all of the published work. Who knows? You may have prevented a mass shooting or two through your work. If you had Anthony McRae, and that's the first time in this show that we've mentioned his name, and someone had dropped him off at your office there on East Lansing Drive and said, we want you to meet with him. We think that this guy has a real issue and could be dangerous to society. Where would you have started, and could you have done anything?
Well, I would talk to him. I mean, meaning the only danger were there. I'd have to make a call because he's what the danger. I would talk to him, but once someone tells me that they think this person's going to go kill someone or do something, then I would, there is under the mental health code, I would have to say something. But let's just say they came in and said he was disturbed, going difficult time. Okay, I would talk to him, just be friendly. Just say, what's going on? Tell me a little bit about history. What are things that interest you? Very laid back. Just try to sort out what's going on. Because, and again, if we take the father's thing, the difficulty, and the mother, and let's say I knew that, I could say, well, tell me a little bit about your mom. Tell me about history. Tell me what's happening with you. Just kind of that, just really kind of low key. You have to develop a relationship just talking to the person. In fact, I really wish that you said that, Jack. I really wish I could have talked to him because sounds like he is a guy that's gone, and I feel horrible, and what he did was horrible. However, I wish I had been able to talk to him, and hopefully, might have been able to be helpful. But then again, I'm a true believer in the sense that I believe anybody can change a course if they're motivated, and if they can meet the right person that can work with them and, talk to them, that would be true in any circumstance, Jack. But I wish I had met him, but just friendly, talk to him, let him know that there was open discussion, and, that would have been, I think, a nice thing to have done. And I will want to know more about him, that we are he's from our community, and
Right.
just to feel horrible. I don't want to turn him into a victim, because he's the
Right.
victimizer. But I'd certainly like to know what happened, because the more we find out and keep adding to the database, and like you say, he's not the typical younger person. He's the guy,
Right.
not that 43 is old, but he's not the random person who's usually out going to a university and shooting people. Just a horrible new situation, Jack.
And so many of the killers, John, have cowardice in other ways and take their
Yes.
own life. So there's never a chance to really find out afterward the way that you would like to what caused this to happen. But when you look at some of the situations with guys like this, we forget that there is a human toll. And Brian Fraser,
Yeah.
Grosse Pointe South, Ariel Anderson from Grosse Pointe North, and Alexandria Werner from Clawson
Yeah.
are not here. And if you were contacted by parents, I can't imagine how horrific it would be to bury your child who you'd sent away to school, and then you get that call last night. How would you help those people cope in what would seem to be hell?
Well, first of all, there's no way that you can ever overcome the hurt of losing a child. Okay, I mean, there's no. The only personal thing, even totally different. I had a brother that had died from childhood meningitis back in '42, actually, and my mother, and they never got over it. I mean, it was talked about openly, but something like this is so much horrible in the sense that someone actually went and killed someone. You don't get over it. All you can do, you try to look for purpose. Okay, you try to look. If you have a spiritual outlook, that makes it easier. But you also look at what are the memories you have? What impact did the person have? Obviously, these three persons had a lot of impact on a lot of people. They obviously were good students. They certainly must have been good people. What they were aiming for different, their goals in life. I think you talk about the person, you talk about where they were, you talk about the impact they had, and what can be gained, what involvement can we have, what can you have in terms of trying to, involvement in terms of that something like this, doesn't happen again, but just being available as they need to talk and cry and work these things out, Jack. It's horrible. And this is not like a car accident. It's not like a health death.
Right.
This is an out-and-out murder, which is makes it ghastly, difficult. I mean, no words can use it. Sadly, I have been involved in a few of these conversations over many years, and I think when this happens, you talk about it, you try to sort things out. But again, I think you have to focus on the memories, the wonderful times together.
Yeah.
You can't in the future. Remember, most of our existence is memory, because we don't really know for sure what happened yesterday except what we remember about it. Isn't that really true?
Right.
So that I think you love the memories. You think of what was there. You cherish it. You let everyone know about the person, because that person will live as long as not just you remember, but the others that knew them, and the memories that you can share with children, grandchildren, even great-grandchildren. So these are, you just, that's the kind of memories, the homage, the support. And if you're a spiritual person in terms of believing in a life after, then I think you're going to see that person again. But either way, there's no easy way. It's a nightmare, and that's when people have to come in. And by the way, anyone who intervenes, a little advice: you have to wait until the person wants to talk. There are times after something like this that people don't want to talk. You want to allow the person to communicate with you. You might drop a little note and say, "Thinking of you," just like that. Thinking of you, I'm near. that type thing, because you don't want to intrude. Like, I'm here to help. Okay, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to just stay away and say nothing because you're afraid. I think it's just you can make a comment. So that's, and then in my work with something like that, you just work with a person and try to work with them as they go through the impossibility of the grief of trying to even imagine, how with 50,000 students, how did it happen that my child is the one that was shot? Pretty horrible stuff, Jack. No way to see it in a good way.
They say there's nothing worse than burying a child. It's supposed to go the other way around. But you mentioned, if there's an illness, if there's something that you can anticipate or you can prepare for, or you can treasure final moments, and then you get something like the car crash you mentioned, and the unexpected nature of that, and how traumatic it is. I know some people who have taken their own life, and the suicide aspect also adds in the guilt component, often unnecessarily so, but it's a fact, it's a reality. But something like this, where you may have just talked to your child an hour earlier, you may have plans to see them this weekend. The last thing that they expected was what they got. And I don't know how you would deal with that. You mentioned the spirituality and how faith is a factor. You're very devout in your Catholicism. For those who are not quite as devout, does religion and belief in God become the greatest rock that you can have, a thing that you can rely on? Or do you begin to even question that and say, what kind of a God do we have that would ever allow this to happen?
Well, I think, Jack, things like this totally depend on the person. Okay, what I mean is, you will find people from concentration camps, to take an example. Some of them became far more devout. Okay, and others had total lack of faith in a personal God. Okay, I would look at it this way. I would say that people that have a strong faith aren't going to lose their faith over something like this. They may, okay, but most are going to just see that the life, the plan that was made for the person ended on this particular day. Okay, call it what you will. I know when one of my son's best friends many years ago died in a train crash. Okay,
right.
I remember Father Regent came and said, the boat came in. Okay, and Christ called him, come. His name was Ben. Wonderful, wonderful kid, by Ben Coonrod. Wonderful kid. Okay, and so in that particular case, I don't think it's the type thing you lose your faith. Okay, it can make your faith stronger. Now there are those that'll say, because of this, to heck with it. But if you're a secular humanist, Jack, I think you still look at life as a process. We live, we die. It's a continuation. We continue through our children, grandchildren, great-children, grandchildren, all the way through. So you have the memories. You live this life with this person. It doesn't have to do with a God. It has to do with it. It's a human experience. And you have those memories, and you keep those memories. Because, there may be someone you haven't seen for 20 years. They're alive, but when they die, it isn't, they're dead, but up until then, you thought of them. You may talk with them on the phone every now and then. One of the nice things I did find with Facebook, I found some friends, people that I hadn't had contact with, one for 60 years. How does that sound? In fact, two more, just one in Grand Rapids and one in California, by the way, that I'd had not had any contact with since 1961. I'm just telling you from graduating from high school. But I'm saying what happens is in life, we have the memories, we have children, we have grandchildren, we have people that we really love and care for. Forgetting God completely, you have those memories, you have these experiences. Golly, they're wonderful. You keep them. The tragedy is it can't continue. There's nothing. It won't go forward. Okay, they end at a certain point. But you're grateful, nature, life, that you've had this time with the person. You just feel horrible that it doesn't continue. And that's where you remember, you say, I want my children, my grandchildren, friends, I want them to know about the person. And I'm going to share that information. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to say, I'm not want to hide that I've lost a child. I loved a child. I had a wonderful child. And wonderful memories, wonderful experiences, as difficult as a person might be at that age, okay? I'm just saying, though, but you cherish that, and you go forward with that. And I think that's very reasonable and very good, too. People have different ways of grieving, too. So, you could be mad at God. You could find God. You could say, I want to find my purpose, that this isn't right. So everybody is different. That's the beauty of human nature, and how we find our road, our way to happiness, to peace, to whatever it might be. That's part of our road, in life. And this is, I really personally can't imagine a worse kind of a thing, though, than losing a child in these circumstances. We might sit down for an hour and come up with a few things, but that's about as horrible as it can really, as it can really get. So we just hope, we wish the best for these parents and families and the students. I read about one girl that came out and had blood all over her from one of her friends that had been shot. So a girl like that, how does she deal with that trauma?
And the people who have been there before, John, I saw someone today who had been at Marjorie Stoneham. Saw someone today who had been at Oxford. And you can say that everyone has a road. We don't know exactly how long that road is. But
that is true.
In this case, these aren't really roads. These are cul-de-sacs. These are such short experiences.
Yes.
And I think most people who were in anything close to this situation would, for at least a little while, say, why me, why us, why here? But my question has to do with something a little beyond that. Why anywhere? Why does this have to happen, and will it always happen?
Well, I think this, Jack. I think based on human nature, you're going to have people that go haywire. I mean, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to occur. I still think, the love thy neighbor as thyself, and, do unto others as them do unto you, forgetting even any biblical context, just general human, just smiling, being nice to people, being supportive. These are the type things that help people get through life. And if you get somebody who's isolated, negativity, you just try to give them a little positiveness. You try, because I work with a lot of people and have for decades. People that are just negative. They find the negative. You can find negative in anything, and let's take a factor, whatever factor it might be, and you look for that in anywhere for unfairness, wrong, call it whatever you will. You can be as unhappy as you want to be. Okay, my view is if everybody deals with the particular cards they have in their hands, and they try to improve their hand, they try to help other people, they move forward, then everybody can try to advance. Everybody is different. Everybody's motivated differently. Everybody has different goals. I just read an article about, kind of amazing, what the trades will pay. Okay, Jack, if you go and become an electrician, you become a carpenter versus going 4 years to the university. And what I mean is, when you can make $150,000 in a trade, okay. Now I'm not trying to just put a dollar figure on it, but people that are, when teachers go to school 5 years and make $35,000-$40,000, that just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, attitude is so important, as you say, in everything. But these 8 students and their parents, they didn't have bad attitudes. They were just at a bad place.
Jack, you are completely right. But again, my feeling is we can be down, we can feel horrible about this, and I do. I still believe we can always try to make things better and try to find solutions. In the long run, I think how we treat each other as human beings, how we try to be helpful. That's ultimately the key, because the more people that find satisfaction in life, that are able to see a place for them in life, and just accepting, we'll have less. And maybe if people we're underestimating how many of these we aren't having. I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but I do think we want to focus on making a better world for all of us that are here. That's a good goal.
You would know more about this than certainly I would, but it seems what I've read in many of these cases is the perpetrators are loners. They have very few friends. Some have no friends, but very limited positive human contact. And as you say, maybe just a kind word or something, but if they never come in contact with that kind of reinforcement, it makes it much more difficult. John, thanks so much for joining us. Nobody I would have rather had on this show today. Really appreciate it, and I hope I see you soon.
Pleasure talking to you. I like saying hello to Doug, too. I hadn't talked to him for a long time either, my friend. Good talking to you. Bye-bye.
Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services, and, he's been doing this for more than 50 years. Do you know that Dr. John Braccio was a friend of Wilt Chamberlain's out in California, Doug? Did you know that?
Yeah, I remember hearing you guys talk about that before.
Yeah, on the beach there, All right, when we get back, we'll try to put this in a little bit of perspective, and I want to talk about our brethren in the media and how some people have really shined in a moment like this, a moment that they wish they never had to deal with, and others could not have stooped much lower. We'll be right back.
Message and data rates may apply. Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're thinking. Should I shave my head, comb it over, wear a hat? Just stop. This isn't 1970. Keep your hair and your confidence, because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration experts, can give you your real hair back permanently. Check them out today, because they're giving away an absolutely free information kit and a free gift card to anyone that texts EASY to 203203. Dude, you don't have to look like your dad, because this isn't your dad's hair loss treatment. People all over the country trust Bosley because they're ahead of the curve. They use the latest technology to give you your real hair back. And the best part? Bosley's permanent solution is protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Let Bosley show you for free how awesome your hair could look with an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off. Text EASY to 203203. That's BASY to 203203.